Right now I've got another IOD series build for you guys today, and I'm bringing you IOD-4 Void Waker. Now, if you watched the previous IOD series update video, you already got a sneak peek at this build. It wasn't decaled at the time, but you know, the parts are, I think, actually the same. I don't think I changed any parts in this build. Now, if you need a refresher, the IOD series is my own personal custom favorite ACs with their own decaling jobs with a bit of a Lovecraftian theme, hence the IOD name, right? Now, Void Waker is a very, very simple build. 4 Gatling guns on the Lammergeier legs. Super fast, tons of impact output, tons of damage output, tons of direct hit damage. It's an absolute blast to play. I love this build. Not exactly like the best build in the world, but it's super fun. It does have the downside of being a lightweight, right? So it is relatively squishy. It staggers pretty easily, but quad Gatling guns, and the hover speed is still over 390. Yeah, 390. If you are aware just how crazy fast you can beat the Lammergeier legs, even with a ton of weight on them, well, there you go. I've even got the Basho head on this frame because I think it looks good on it. And it's just barely skirting the weight limit, but still over 390. Super, super fast. And again, I do think it's the Lammergeier legs that really makes this build possible, right? Because kind of the main issues that the Gatlings have is that they're just not great at mid-range and further, right? Their projectile speed is not super, super high. It's not bad either, right? They've actually got pretty decent projectile speed, but they've got quite a bit of spread as well. The Gatling cannons are a bit better at spread at range than the Gatling guns, but it's not that much better, right? But definitely the Lammergeier legs is kind of what makes this work, in my opinion, because you can be so fast, you could just get in someone's face and just burst away, and they can't really do anything about it, right? Because even if you dodge once, well, you just get tracked another second later, and you just keep taking all that impact damage. And like I said, this build does a ton of impact output if you are just, you know, just like plowing into your opponent at point blank, right? Because again, they just can't avoid it. And both the Gatling cannon and the Gatling gun have really good direct hit damage modifiers, so you actually get a lot of direct hit damage. Despite not having any burst damage weapons on the build, they kind of function as their own burst weapon, right? Just because of how high their direct impact modifier is. The Hubins, the handhelds that have a 215, and the shoulder mounted, the Gatling cannons have a direct hit modifier of 190, I believe. Yeah, kind of just all in one, and again, super fast, super fun to play, really good energy management as well. I absolutely love this build. Now, let's go ahead and get into the paint screen, and then we'll get on into the build. Now, for the paint job here, I've got the same generic color scheme as I've been using in the previous IOs, of course. But I will say for the decaling on this was definitely one of the more difficult ones to decal. Because of these parts, the Lammergeier parts don't give you a lot of space to actually work with, right? Especially with the legs, you know, with the fold, I have to be like kind of really careful where I'm placing things or things look weird. And it really actually was pretty difficult to get this looking not just completely plain, but also in a way that I liked. It ended up being pretty simple, mostly just some eyes. There are some tentacles sort of coming out of the back and like resting over, I guess, like the shoulder of the AC. But a pretty simple paint job all around. Again, just not a lot of space to work with on the Lammergeier parts. So I was kind of just stumped as to what I wanted to do with it. But again, as always, the paint colors and everything, the RBG values, we linked in the or we shown in the comments, in like the pinned comment, right? If you're not on PC and you can't get the PC share code, right? Now let's go and get into the build. Now, in terms of weapon loadouts, you honestly can't get much simpler than Void Waker, right? It's just 4 Gatling guns. And there isn't really much to talk about here. Now, the Hubins are, you know, these weapons. Kind of their main issue is definitely their range and their spread. And their projectile speed as well, I guess, is part of the range issue. So, you know, you do have to be pretty close to them for them to be effective. But they do a lot of damage, especially on direct hits. They actually do quite a bit of damage because they do have a high direct hit adjustment, 2.215. Really, really high direct hit adjustment. So once you do get a stagger of these, and they are good at getting staggers, it will just absolutely spread AP, right? Now, of course, the back units, the new Gatling cannons to Xiaoweis are very, very similar. And kind of the main difference here is that the Xiaoweis overheat much faster, but also cool down much faster. Now, one thing to note about the Xiaoweis is there's a bit of a trick with them in terms of their heating, right? You can fire them, stop firing, and let them cool down a bit. And until they actually fold back, they are still in a ready state. So when you press the fire button again, they'll fire instantly. They don't have to spin back up, right? They stay spun up for quite a long time. Again, until you see them actually sort of like fold back, right? So just keep that in mind. You could actually fire these nearly indefinitely if you just manage your heat, right? And yeah, I mean, I guess other than that, just like the Hubins, these are pretty solid direct hit weapons, and there's really not really much else to say about. They're very, very, very similar, right? Except for their cooling characteristics. And yeah, all there is to say about the weapons. Let's move on into the frame. Now, for the frame, I've really kind of mostly just care about the looks here. Now, obviously, there are some things about the build where it's definitely made in a way to optimize a bit. But first of all, let's talk about the legs first, the Lammergeier legs, and this is kind of what makes this build really work in my opinion, because like I mentioned before, the main issue with the Gatling guns are their range, right? You really need to be quite close to them for them to be truly effective, and they are relatively heavy, so on a biped build, or a tank build of course, it can be very easy for your opponent to just simply, kite you basically, right? And the Lammergeier legs with their insanely high hover speed give us a workaround for this, right? With these, even with all the the super heavy weapon loadout, we've got a hover speed of over 390, so very, very, very fast. Again, solves that primary issue that the Gatling guns have, right? Now the other parts are partially chosen because I needed low weight here, and I wanted good generator stats as well here. It's another thing, but mostly because I wanted to use new parts, and I think they look cool. And I like how the Basho head looks on these, and it just so happens that it just barely fits load-wise. So, really, really happy that I was able to fit this, because I really like how the Basho head looks on this frame set, right? Looks really, really, really good in my opinion. Yeah, there's really not a lot to say. I guess one thing I will talk about the arms a little bit. They do have really high recoil control, but as far as I understand, this doesn't matter for the Gatling guns because they just fire too quickly for your recoil to actually recover, right? So as far as I'm aware, I could be wrong about this, but the recoil control really doesn't actually matter here. Firearm spec on this is not the best, but it's not the worst either, and you do have a pretty decent FCS to kind of make up for that. But yeah, that's all there is to say about the frame. Move on into the internals. Now first, for the booster, we've got the P04 booster. Now I've talked about this booster quite a few times because it's just like the generically decent but nothing amazing about it booster. But I actually think in this case, since the hover state of tetrapods ignores a lot of your booster stats, but it does keep some of the stats we like the most on this build, this is actually the best booster for the Lammergeier legs in my opinion. It's definitely one I like the most. It feels really, really, really good on these legs because it's got a pretty good jet duration with a relatively short reload time, as well as a good reload weight to sort of carry this. And more importantly, it's really, really cheap on energy, right? It's really cheap on energy consumption, so you can be very aggressive with your quick boosts with this booster, and it feels very, very, very nice, especially since, again, like the quick boost thrust and stuff like that, even though it's not the highest, we don't actually care about that on the hover legs because it doesn't matter, because the hover legs have their own, or the hover state has its own stats there, right? So yeah, I absolutely love the PO4 on the Lammergeier legs. It's the only booster I use on these legs. Now, moving on, we've got the Talbot FCS, and the main thing here is that we've got both good medium range and close range assist, and more importantly, better close range assist, right? Because there are a couple things, like kind of the main considerations here would be the WLT-001, or maybe even the Oculus if you just wanted to really, go in on, exclusively close range. But I spent some time messing around and ended up finding the FCS I liked the most was the Talbot, just because it's got good close range assist, better than the WLT-001. And it's still got a decent amount of medium range assist because you are going to sort of pull away from your opponent to be more at mid-ranges from time to time. So it is nice to have that mid-range assist. But you could, if you really want to, just really double down on the close range and just go for the Oculus, right? A lot of options here, but again, one I liked the best after testing was the Talbot, right? And finally, we've got the generator, the Hokushi. And obviously, talked about this generator a lot. It's pretty light. It's got really good energy output. And this allows us to have, very, very good energy supply efficiency, as well as a decent energy capacity. And since we've got the P04 boosters, we don't really need that much energy capacity because we're so efficient on our energy usage, right? So the Hokushi feels like quite a bit better than it normally does in my opinion, just because how cheap our energy costs are. Because a lot of times on builds like this, I like to run the Santai just for the really big energy output or the really big energy capacity, right? But there's really just no need for it on this build with the PO4 boost. Right? And finally, for the expansion, I've got the Assault Armor expansion. I wanted to go full aggro on this build basically, so I went for Assault Armor. And yeah, there you go. That's all there is to say about Void Waker. As always, hope you guys enjoyed the build. Remember, share code will be in the description and the comments below. And as always, before we get into the gameplay footage, a quick thank you to our members. Any tier of the membership helps a lot. I really appreciate it. Of course, you do get some benefits. You get your name here. You get to see videos a day earlier if you're a Purple Cat tier or higher. There's a members exclusive Discord channel and some other stuff, right? Now, let's go ahead and get into the gameplay.
It's all...
Here we are, 621. Archibus will be here soon. Investigate before they arrive. The coral...
This isn't like the sea level. It's not just powered by coral. I think it's controlled by coral too.
Listen up, 621. The IBIS series are no ordinary weapons. They're designed to prevent coral disasters. A security measure to keep the Recon safe. Now the original masters are long gone. Destroy it before it destroys you.
Taking damage right away. We'll get these hit before it is right. I know you can find a way.
Keep it up, 621.
Enemy coral response. Silent.
1 repair kit remaining.
Wait. It's coming back.
It's reactivating.
Is this what the IBIS series is truly capable of?
It's resonating with the infinite coral, drawing power from its environment. It won't stop until we destroy its generator. Enemy has taken significant damage. Picking up a powerful anti-resonance. Attacked the coral.
You've nearly got it, 621. You're the only one who can finish the job.
Generator compromised.
It's gonna blow. Get out of there, 621.
Intercept the two targets.
There's our Merc. Go take care of the objective, King. I'll clip this one's wings.
Not alone. This is a branch mission. I'll support you.
This isn't right. You're just a Gen 4. You belong in a museum, not an AC. You don't know when to quit. I hope you die!
Chartreuse! Withdraw! Abandon your AC!
AC Umbrox destroyed.
This is more of a challenge than I'd anticipated. I haven't seen anything like this since...
AP at 50%. AP at 30%. AP at 50%.
You're strong.
Wait, I'm picking up another AC.
621. We're not here to take back the Raven name. However, we will see if you can do it justice. Our friends have been defeated. Be careful, Raven.
That pilot must be the original owner of the AC6. I don't think this is a coincidence.
The Raven is a symbol of resolve. The will to choose what one fights for.
Stay focused, Raven.
Yes, Raven, I feel it too. This mercenary has potential. Raven, we can still... All right. We'll watch this one. See where they go on a Raven's wings.
All enemy ACs destroyed. Mission accomplished.